These days, it seems every time there's a big AAA video game release coming out, there will be a small vocal minority finding something controversial to boycott the game over. Most recently, it is with Call of Duty Modern Warfare. White phosphorus can be used as a kill streak in the online multiplayer mode, and some out there are offended by this because they don't think that chemical weapons should be used against soldiers. This is coming from a series where you could deploy dogs to go maul enemy soldiers or drop a nuke killing everyone. No one really cared about that. But the thing is, most people realize it's just a video game. Or if we look at Red Dead Redemption, there were calls from gaming journalists to boycott the game over the character Charles because he was too stereotypical or something. For CD Projekt Red's Cyberpunk 2077, people were offended by the inclusion of a transgender person in a poster on the wall in the video game. And they weren't offended that there was a transgender person included, but because the transgendered person wasn't included in a good enough way, because I guess trans people can't model for an advertisement in the future? I don't know. The point is that there will always be someone who can find something to be offended by in anything. And the problem is that it seems like this might start to affect video games. As you might already know, Sony has begun censoring some games that are not censored on other platforms. So far it has mostly been covering nudity or barely dressed women with things like fog or lens flares. This started with the Western release of a game called Omega Labyrinth Z, being cancelled by Sony because of some of the sexual content in the game where the players could become very intimate with the female characters and do some weird things involving hunting. The UK and American rating boards gave the game a mature rating, but they were okay with the game being released. The PS4 release of Senran Kagura Burst Renewal had an intimacy mode removed but was kept in for other platforms. Another example is in Devil May Cry 5, where the butt of a female character was censored with fog on the PS4 version. It's speculated that PlayStation decided to do this with the rise of the Me Too movement to avoid lawsuits. A vocal minority arguing that video games over-sexualize women too much was also likely to have been part of this decision. Now, I'm not saying I personally care that that stuff was censored or that I am even into those types of games, but there are people out there that are. These games are meant for a mature audience and have a following. These issues have persisted, and there are more and more games coming out now that continue to be censored and have things taken out on the PS4 version by Sony. A big issue is there is no clear line of what is okay and what isn't for Sony at the moment. What is too much? Nudity? Only nudity of women? Tight clothes on women? What about the male characters, who are also sexualized in video games? And why stop with nudity? With the rise of media attention towards horrible violent acts carried out by some terrible people, I'm sure there will be calls for less violence in video games. Is Sony going to crack down on violence as well for the fear of people blaming these terrible acts of violence on video games? It seems that Sony is forgetting about things that are already in place for these issues. The ESRB rates games for things like violence and nudity so that parents can know if their kids should be playing the game or not. If you don't want your kids seeing nudity, then look at the rating on the box and don't buy it if it says nudity. You wouldn't take a 7-year-old to an R-rated movie, you probably shouldn't buy them the rated M game either. PlayStation consoles also have parental controls which can limit the amount of time played and the rating of games you're able to play. Parental controls and rating systems are the solutions to these problems, but PlayStation is ignoring this, and this is why for the first time ever I might have to consider the next Xbox. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game I'm very excited for, and the demo showed nudity. Why would you want to play Cyberpunk on PlayStation if the real unedited version that the developers intended is available on another console? What if the next GTA has a mission involving a strip club? Will this mission be taken out of the game on PlayStation? PlayStation pandering to the vocal minority is not the right move because there will always be people who find something to complain about and have a voice through social media to make their opinions seem important. Why isn't this main character a female? Why is the person white? Why is this person of color portrayed in a way I don't like? Racing games glorify using greenhouse gases. Sonic running fast is offensive to those of us who run slow. Kratos forcefully genders his child without consent. Why isn't Mario gay? These are ridiculous, but I'm sure you could find a serious tweet about them from someone. Censoring artists is dangerous and a slippery slope. PlayStation, please, stop what you're doing. Let the ESRB do its job. I really don't want to have to buy the Xbox.